gamification aspect to it. So when a consumer walks into a secondary market store and they buy a brand that they've never heard of, that could be the brand acquiring a new customer or acquiring a new segment of customers who may at some point become premium paying customers. So there's a lot of downstream effects to how the secondary market is kind of growing right now in the US.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. And I think that sort of treasure hunt mentality speaks so well to our...
When we lost you, I was telling Julie that, TJ Maxx is always a household favorite because you can get stuff a year later. But you've created this digital liquidation. I've never thought of food being accessible through a similar outlet. This is interesting. What is the shelf life of some of the food? Like how much of a discount are they getting? And how long would they what's the cycle in terms of timing?
Yeah, so we've seen food and beverage products with dating as short as like 1 to 2 months. Typically, again, they're going to be items that you go through pretty fast, like beverages or Oreos, any of those kind of like junk food snack items. We also see similar things with like toothpaste. When we have toothpaste that has 1 to 2 months of expiration, there is very strong demand for it because toothpaste is one of those items where prices have kind of gone up a lot the last few years in pharmacies and convenience stores. And it's something that people use every day. So they know that they can get through a tube of toothpaste the same way they can get through a box of cereal in the next few weeks. At the same time, like I mentioned, we are liquidating products for reasons that have nothing to do with short dated or expiration. Packaging changes, brand refreshes, flavors or SKUs being phased out. There's a multitude of different reasons behind it. Sometimes it's purely a storage space issue. It may be an item like pet food as an example that doesn't even have an expiration. There is no urgent need to liquidate it, but it's really heavy. We've got, 15, 20 pound bags, and it's just not worth holding it in the warehouse because we have faster moving items coming in. So a lot of the calculus that we do with our customers, and these are obviously logistics companies and manufacturers and brands, is it worth holding this item or is it better to liquidate it? And there's also other options if liquidation can't occur because there may be a variety of reasons behind it. The brand has super strict requirements around geography. They are very worried about brand dilution. It may be a very, very premium product, a celebrity brand, athlete brand, whatever the reason is. In that case, sometimes it may make sense to donate the product and capture some level of tax deduction. So we also enable that ability through our platform. And the tax deductions, we can kind of compare those against the recovery that you'd receive via liquidation, which is why an AI-powered solution for this is really helpful, is because there is a lot of math. There's a lot of essentially calculations behind this. Like I said, is it worth holding? Is it worth keeping? Is it worth liquidating, donating? Is it worth doing a potential split between the two? You could get a PR campaign off of donating, but you may get higher recovery off of liquidation. How do you evaluate what is worth more to you in that moment as a brand?
Yeah, I remember when Kanye, or Ye, I guess is his name, got in a lot of trouble for some of the more controversial, offensive things he said. It was something like a $2 billion write-off for Adidas. They had no choice. I imagine they just destroyed it and potentially took a tax write-off. I don't think they're donating that to charity. Well, Amrita, really great to have you. This is a really interesting conversation. I hadn't thought about the GLP-1 creating so much inventory overhang.
I knew you were going to be jazzed when that came up.
I love GLP-1s.
I wrote it as a note in case it didn't come up because I knew.
Monjaro, I've lost 50 pounds. It's amazing. I believe this is a miracle. Amrita, really excited to have you back. By the way, I was at the store this weekend. I got to say one thing. Oreos are a health food. Let's get that right. They're not junk food. They are actually really good for you. I promise. The other thing is I noticed that Pop-Tarts, another classic American health food, has now offered protein.
I saw them at my sister's the other day. That's what her children eat. And I was like, well, at least they have protein in them.
Yeah, at least it's protein. That's right. That's what at least we're justifying that. Well, appreciate it, Amrita. Best of luck to you. And I'm sure that if brands are looking for ways to liquidate inventory, or consumers, and is this something that consumers can also access?
We are a B2B company, so we sell directly to businesses and then they sell directly to their end consumers. And we do very large volumes. We will liquidate 25 trucks, single SKU of one brand, of one flavor. So our volumes that we do are typically large and we distribute across the country. So like I mentioned, if you are a consumer and you engage in the secondary market store, it would be interesting for you to think about like where those products come from. And there's a sustainability aspect to you being able to buy those. You're also saving money, but that's pretty much how we operate. And on the protein front, I was going to say, along with the ingredient reformulation that we're seeing a lot of the food manufacturers are being forced to do, we are seeing a lot of restaurants are offering heavy protein options, like Starbucks is an example of that, where they're really emphasizing the grams of protein in their drinks, right? So I think across the food industry right now, there is a big push for protein beverages, and it's a big trend that we are definitely seeing as strong demand for. And a lot of the products that were higher in sugar, maybe lower in protein, those are the kinds of items that we are liquidating onto the secondary market.
Fascinating conversation. Just the way consumer taste. I mean, one of the things that's, if you look at these ubiquitous charts of American obesity rates, is they went up until the last 2 years, and now they're on the decline. You can now buy ice cream that's fortified with protein. I think Dave's is the name of the brand. Something like 30 grams of protein in a scoop of ice cream. It is a health food. By the way, that is not a joke, by the way. There is research about people that eat ice cream actually have a lower incidence of diabetes. I did not making this up. The National Institute of Health published a study. Harvard also published it.
I mean, there's calcium in it. There are very worse
apparently
things.
It has to do with the fat content.
There are a lot of worse things.
Amrita, we can have you back anytime you want to come back. Excited to see what you're seeing in the market. So much to talk about. Amrita, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
That was really awesome.
All right, so I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors that you can see in the ticker at the bottom, and we are going to get into our next segment, which is brought to you by Highway. A sophisticated cargo theft ring just got taken down, and it's a wake-up call for the entire supply chain. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and the NYPD indicted 8 defendants for allegedly impersonating legitimate trucking businesses and using phishing schemes to steal millions in goods, everything from frozen lamb and cheese to copper and cigarettes. The scheme. Defendants allegedly obtained winning bid information from load boards through hackers, leased trucks, affixed real carrier names and DOT numbers, drove to logistics centers, and walked out with the freight. The operation ran from October 2025 through April 2026 across Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Jersey. Stolen goods sold on the black market in New York City. Why this matters. The FBI warned that cyber-enabled cargo theft losses hit nearly $725 million across the U.S. and Canada in 2025. A 60% year-over-year increase. This isn't smash and grab anymore. It's organized, digital, and sophisticated. What shippers and brokers should watch for. Unexpected contact from carriers or brokers about loads made in your company's name. Email spoofing using free providers to mimic legitimate domains. Requests to download documents from shortened or unfamiliar links. Verified is brought to you by Highway, protecting freight brokers and shippers from carrier fraud before it happens. Highway.
Yeah, Highway's done an amazing job of really mitigating this fraud situation. Is just continues to be pervasive. Another company that's doing amazing work, Jett McCandless, is the CEO of Project 44. Originally started as a visibility company, has now expanded into AI solutions across the board, really creating I would like to say, is an AI operating system for logistics. Jett, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on the show. Great to see you all.
Jett, a lot's going on. Fraud is one of those elements, really AI innovation. You guys have really invested a substantial amount of money. I think the number was like $1 billion in automating a lot of the workflow. Tell us a little bit about what actually is happening, what you're seeing on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have invested over $1 billion, and that's just on the connective tissue standpoint. If you look at total R&D for the entire platform, it's really more like 1.5 or 1.6 billion dollars. But that first step, as you mentioned, was creating that visibility for that connective tissue for all the parties to be able to have a symmetrical information between each party. So what we're seeing is really heavy increase of companies want to know what's happening in their supply chain or wanting to know what's happening with their trading partners. And we're really excited to be able to help them out with that.
So Jett, AI it's a lot of buzzwords. There's been this conversation of the idea that tokenization, token maxing, companies are getting really surprised with the amount of money they're spending on tokens. It used to be that, hey, I can cut some staff and replace them with AI. Some companies, I think there was a report, something like, I believe it was Amazon, spent something like $500 million unexpectedly on tokens. What are you seeing? Like, how are the companies thinking about AI today, and how are you guys handling the implementation of these platforms?
Yeah, I think there's really, I can offer two perspectives that might be valuable. So one, we're a heavy user of AI, and that's a couple different components. One, we use AI to drive the operations of Project 44. And I've talked about this. We reduced about $120 million of annualized operating costs, and a heavy driver of that was AI for internal operations. Some of that was buying third-party tools that's out there on the shelf. SaaS companies that started to offer AI agents in there. Some was just AI agents. Some were things that we built internally, and then there's of course Cursor and Cloud Code and companies like that to drive efficiencies. Like a lot of those companies, we did blow out our token budget relatively early this year, but we're getting a return on it, so we're not going to pull back on it, and we're going to continue to invest on that. We blew that budget out, just for context, to try to help other entrepreneurs out there or companies that are trying to go through this. By about April is when we had exceeded our budget for the year. That said, we're well ahead of our operating costs and of our revenue goals, so it's a good trade-off. We also see it on the AI product side. Project 44 builds products, and companies want AI in the products that we build or that maybe competitors build out there. And on those products, I think that a lot of companies are struggling with surprise token invoices. So what they want is some type of pricing and packaging that's very consistent. Might sound kind of familiar, maybe something like something as a subscription. So perhaps SaaS comes back in style. I know ever since SaaS Apocalypse, January 28th, it hasn't been super popular. But ultimately, I think these companies are going to want to know some type of smooth, consistent pricing for their AI that has a hard ROI.
Talk a little bit more about your AI product that's embedded in your suite of products. I know that you've talked about people not needing to choose one AI vendor, and I believe it's called Autopilot that works within your system. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about the voice and messaging agents, they're extremely powerful. And I think we were all wowed by some of the early vendors out there like Happy Robot that really did a fantastic job of showing what the possibility of this is probably about 18 months ago, doing a rate quote or something like that, if I remember correctly. And when I looked at that, I said, well, this is powerful. And I just thought, well, why do we have some type of competitive advantage to win in this? When I looked at our engineering team and ourselves, we weren't uniquely positioned to build voice and messaging agents more so than the other, what I thought would be hundreds of companies that would be getting into that space. But what we had that nobody else in the world had is we had context. And that's, I think, extremely powerful because AI agents without context are kind of just guessing faster usually, or there's a lot of work to try to create context so that those agents can actually be effective. So what we built with inside our platform was an agent optimization engine. And this engine has analytics, optimization, orchestration. So we took the largest and best and some of the smallest agent companies out there, Vuma, Happy Robot, and another of other ones, LunaPath, and we put them in this engine that we built, and we ran them side by side for over a year. And what we found in that process is some really interesting trends. One, it depended on what was the actual task that was being asked of the agent. Some agents perform better at other tasks than others. Language made an impact. Of course, a lot of the agent companies do voice and messaging. Some are stronger in other areas. And again, it is somewhat task dependent. And so we focused again on providing the context. We have the distribution, the trust with the customers. And when a customer plugs into Project 44, they may or may not know which agent company it is. It's typically LunaPath, Vuma, or Happy Robot. But what they're really interested in is the outcomes that we drive for them.
Jett, you gave me a preview, it was like a couple weeks ago, about how you guys are building the AI scripts, basically the AI algos. They're embedded in the platform so the customer doesn't actually have to go and code that. I imagine that's a huge advantage because you're able to really streamline the data flow. The AI agent is trained specifically on how your databases work, how your and the customer's databases work. Have you seen cross adoption and substantial adoption since you guys rolled out Autopilot?
Yeah, absolutely. It's growing very, very quickly. I suspect we make more agent calls and voice messages, or agent calls and messages than anyone in the industry. it's growing at really just a remarkable pace. And what I look at more so than just the agent calls themselves growing is outcomes and success rates. And that's been quite impressive to look at. And it's really a combination of the shippers and the LSPs that are using these. You're right, because it's already embedded in the platform and it's clicks, not code. You don't need prompt engineers. You don't need to set up these databases because we already have the context. It's really quite easy, and the adoption is quick. I'll give you a really easy example for something that might resonate. When a company, whether it's a shipper or an LSP, does dispatches to an LTL carrier, there's always this question as to which shipments were picked up the next day. And sometimes it could be on the fault of the LTL carrier, it's often not. Sometimes it could just be something was reproed. Sometimes it could be the truck didn't have room, or a pallet size increased, so the stop before gave more freight, or whatever, all these real realities that happen there. And so historically, what we've had for the last 20 years is outsourced shops in LATAM or Asia to call the carriers and get these pro numbers. Well, now because we have the API technology for the dispatch, we've had that since 2014, we can immediately see which shipments don't have a pro number to trigger that visibility. And now what we can do is we can just dispatch agents to go and actually search for that pro number, find that pro number by calling the carrier and looking to get that. And that's a very easy but very practical. I think when I was checking it yesterday, to give you an idea, we do about 75,000 LTL dispatches a day. So it's a very significant number. It's probably somewhere between 8 to 15% of the market, depending on the day. But I saw agents matched over 2,000 dispatches yesterday. So a quite significant impact.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the things I thought was really compelling is this idea of infinite labor. Logistics is really constrained by human. It's still a human-intensive business, but the idea that these agents can provide infinite labor, I think, has to be a massive appeal for your customer base.
Yeah, I think it is. And when we're looking at our two customer bases, when we look at the shippers, they're not so interested when we experience them in actually reducing the cost of the transportation team. That's relatively small when you look at how much they spend on freight and the margins that they have overall. What they tend to be interested in is how do they reduce the inventory? How do they reduce the stock outs? I was listening to your earlier guest. How can they get ahead of some of those trends and have real impacts on their supply chain? Stop recalls, parts or something that don't go out. Whatever it is that's meaningful to them, make sure that their new iPhone release goes perfectly. And so if they can just improve their supply chain with infinite labor, that's impactful. When we talk to the logistics service providers, of course, their product is the service that they're providing. They're not selling phones or shoes or some type of packaging goods. Craig, I think you're pushing for ice cream out there. And so they really want to know how can they increase that net margin, which is relatively small that they work on from a percentage basis. And that infinite labor can be very impactful to them also.
So there's lots of problems that you are pushing to fix with these new processes and using AI. What do you think is the most impactful problem that could be addressed right now in our industry?
Well, the one that's just it's so simple and so easy to understand is I would just call it improved data quality. And I could see a lot of agent companies out there kind of attacking this as a one-off. And I think the industry is going to realize that it's good to augment or subsidize or enhance, but it's never going to replace an EDI or an API in its entirety. It's just too expensive to deploy these agents. That said, it's also probably the best place to deploy agents. Everybody needs better data quality to be able to make better decisions. When you're looking at automating these operational decisions, whether it's execution or visibility, and whatever perspective that is on who they are in the supply chain node. So improving data quality, but again, I think it has to be done in conjunction with EDI and API. It can't be just a substitute.
Jett, I got to ask, during COVID, a lot of implementations of visibility, you guys grew a substantial amount in the early phases of COVID, but one of the sort of pushbacks that we heard from customers consistently on all these new supply chain solutions, we heard it at Sonar. They bought all this technology, their budgets increased, and they didn't necessarily see the ROI on all the solutions. And again, not just visibility, but also in data. How has that evolved where now companies are looking at their ROI, really expecting a direct return on investment for what they're actually implementing inside a supply chain?
Well, we might have been the poster boy child for that comment.
So.
I appreciate you providing some air cover there with your personal experience. I mean, the reality is when COVID happened, we were a relatively small company. I think we went into COVID probably about $20 million, so subscale business for all purposes. I think we came out of COVID over 100 million of ARR. And so that growth alone through that process was dangerous and tricky and difficult and not always executed perfectly. The reality is there's not a lot. I don't know if a lot of companies in supply chain have ever had that type of growth before. And I could write a book about the learning experiences of that in itself. But I think the biggest challenge we got tripped up on when that visibility product is somehow we got held accountable for the carrier's data quality, which is a pretty ridiculous situation to be in. It would be like holding Salesforce accountable for the quality of information their reps typed into Salesforce, or how your accountants are typing in information into NetSuite. You know, our platform, that visibility platform, is a BYOC, bring your own carrier. And so any customer can invite any carrier for any mode anywhere in the world. And naturally, these carriers are all on their own digitalization strategy. But when they invite their carrier, having Project 44 be 100% accountable for that is a losing proposition for everyone. So basically, what we did is we went through and we told the customers, hey, we may not be the right fit for you if you think that's our value prop. And we also invested a lot in trying to take that friction out and helping those carriers have better data quality. And I think I probably got pretty sad about the business in 2023 because I'm not sure that even that had balanced out enough. Sure. But then as we started tinkering with agents a little bit more, I realized, okay, this is how we can augment poor carriers' data. So if I do business with, say, a large coffee company that has, say, 100 carriers in all modes around the world, I may have 80% of their carriers that are spinning off great data, but maybe still that data needs augmented 5% of the time with agents. That's reasonable. But maybe 10% of their carriers do so, and I have to augment their API data with 15% with agents. That's reasonable also. And then you have that 10% where maybe their APIs are awful, and 90% of the data has to come through agents. And that has its own set of challenges, but something is better than nothing. And so then we could sit down with customers and more constructively talk about, well, what is their carrier strategy? And what you're finding now in this market and the freight recession, the dynamics are different, is that these companies are just deciding not to work with those carriers if they can't improve their APIs on some type of reasonable time horizon, say 6 months or 18 months, and make meaningful impacts if it is a longer time horizon, like 18 months. And so that was really, really big. And I think a lot of companies just had this, maybe the ROI wasn't there because of those laggard carriers. But as we've seen a meaningful impact, to give you an idea, the data quality now in the platform is about 2.5x better than it was 3 years ago. So part of that's the carriers making investments, so a lot of gratitude there. Part of it is us hardening the platform and understanding more use cases. It gets very difficult when you're talking about like freight forwarders contributing data that are multi-leg, door-to-door, figuring that out more. And then part of it is leveraging AI across that, so there is a harder ROI. And, you know, we can see it in ours, and you can see it in a company, because what happens is the NRR improves, the gross retention improves, and then you also can see it in the NPS. Like back then, when you're talking about our NPS, I think it was negative 34. I mean, that's just brutal. And now it's positive 39. And so you can see it show up in the numbers.
Jett, how much of that was you guys retooled your business versus just the, you know, sort of the overhang, the sobriety of buyers and sort of realizing that they have to do their work, their part, as you talk about getting carrier compliance? How much of it do you think that you guys can sort of take credit for retooling the business versus sort of market conditions?
Well, it's a combination of everything, and certainly getting rid of customers that didn't understand that was their responsibility as part of it. We just had a stack of business cards for our competitors, and we sent those customers over to our competitors, and I think they thought that was revenue growth, and we smiled and chuckled the whole way. So you just got to unshackle yourselves from those customers, find out who the good partners are that are out there, and then, like you said, market conditions. Remember back in COVID, the largest companies in the world were begging the steamship lines to back up their ships. It's not quite like that now. And you also have just the platform itself hardening. So it's a combination of everything. And then also, I just can't understate how impactful improving our own operations were. Back then, we had about 1,200 team members, and now we have 582, and the business runs much faster and better than it did at 1,200.
You think founder mode is really what's driving that? I know it's been impactful in my business, just the founder, myself getting involved. You're recruiting people like Julie who are not only executives and strategic, but actually will get their hands dirty. Feels like the companies that have momentum have really restored founder mode.
Yeah, there's a great article. The founder of Airbnb mentioned this, and I remember I was sitting on my patio, letting some professional managers drive the company into the ground, and I said, we're gonna take control of this thing again, and went and kind of brought in a new cohort of executives, which is who I have now, and that was I think that made a really big difference. At the end of the day, no one's going to care about the business as much as the founder. And, anyone out there that's a founder knows that you get to the point where you can anticipate everything that's going to happen in the business on the customer side, churn side, growth, market conditions. They're really difficult to train someone from outside the industry on. And the reason I say train someone from outside the industry is that there really aren't a lot of people that have ran companies as large as Project 44 inside the industry. You've got like Duncan over at Blue Yonder, Ed over at Descartes done a good job. Ed over at Invios seems like he's doing a good job. But it's a pretty small list of people that have ran these companies. And I think that there's only two folks running Generation 2 logistics tech companies that are founder-led CEOs, which is Ryan at Flexport and myself. They're running these unicorn companies. So, and it's founders mode is certainly impactful. It has a big impact.
Yeah, and you got to have diesel in your blood. We opened the segment today, or opened the show. Julie and I talked about it. I mean, Julie is a multi-generational trucker, has diesel in her blood. How important that is. And I've said this about when venture capitalists reach out about a company, or if founders reach out about it, the first thing I say is, tell me whom on that management team has experience in the industry, because you can't learn it in a book. It takes many years, even decades, to have tribal knowledge. It's not something that you can come in, because none of this stuff makes sense unless you've been in it. And it seems like it should work a lot better than it does. It really takes tribal knowledge, Julie, as we were talking earlier.
It has. So Jett, it sounds like a lot of lessons learned, I'm sure, in earlier companies you're involved in, and certainly the startup of P44 ultimately to the success where it is today. Can you give our viewers one key takeaway, lesson learned that you would share with them?
Oh, well, there's been so many. One key lesson would be, I'll give it more than. No, I won't share that one. It's a little too on the nose for this meeting.
We can't edit it, so whatever you say can and will be used against you.
I think that you have to look at this industry, and you have to be passionate about it, and you have to be really ready to buckle up. And this is probably in itself a couple decade journey. And so if you are someone coming from, say, Stanford or Silicon Valley or something, and you think you're going to come in and learn about the space and you're going to build a unicorn in 4 or 5 years and get out, like, it's probably going to be a lot tougher road than that. You guys are probably the data on it, but I suspect there's tens of thousands of founders that thought that was going to happen. You really have to be fully immersed into it. And I think that's what you're saying. Diesel in the veins really means, like, it has to be your lifestyle and who you are, and you get that passion from it. And I think that some of these folks, they can fake it for a couple of years, and then after that, their customers start to realize that they're not as passionate about it. Because the reality is there's so many fantastic people on the shipper side and the LSP side. They're just remarkable to work with, and they care about the space, and they're going to stay in it for decades. And so if you're selling them technology, you need to kind of share that same passion with them. And that's probably one of the things that I'd point out.
It's easy to get burned out because this stuff is hard. Like freight and logistics, particularly technology companies. I got burned out. Jett, you were talking about the dark years in 23. I remember being like, man, I don't know what I can do right. This is such a really miserable time. We went to founder mode. We shrunk the size of our team, but that's because we never dissuade what we were trying to accomplish. You have to understand the vision and the mission, regardless of the cycle. I think too many folks come in with a SaaS playbook. This is the way you should run your business. And frankly, that's not what customers in our space are looking for. They're looking for solutions that solve problems. And these things are dealt with over years and years.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, 2023 was a tough year. It's been pretty impressive to watch you all manage that and pivot throughout that. And it's interesting because when things are going well, people love cheering for you, and then they love to cheer for you when it's going down. And certainly, there are folks that thought that FreightWaves was coming to its end or that it happened. And I look at it now, and it's probably that's the strongest that I've ever seen it, with the most innovative products being released. So exciting to see, and I'm glad you're able to navigate that.
Jett, I appreciate it. It's been a labor of love. Look, we're in media. We don't get a pass in terms of the volatility of stories, the up and down. This is part of what we do. So I can't make excuses or feel sorry for myself when people are judging our business, because frankly, it's part of the game. I always say, don't hate the hater, hate the game, but that's the way it's played. Jett, thank you so much. We got one question before we go. Everybody wants to know what's up for Project 44. Are you going public? Is this on the horizon?
I was looking at your tickers down here, and I was like, "Oh, it'd be pretty cool to have our ticker down there." So maybe the public markets have been more closed off than people think when you look at the data over the last 20 years. So I think that it's very likely for us. I mean, the reality is, if you're in the public sector and you want exposure to Gen 2 or Gen 3 logistics tech, you can't get any of it. I guess maybe Freightos would maybe be the closest you could get, but they certainly have had their struggles from a valuation standpoint. And you recently see the founder, I think, stepping back or leaving, and at a time when maybe founder's mode is the most important, as this major shift is happening in the market. So for us, listen, we're a strong grower. We're considered high growth from a year-over-year percentage, and that's what it would take to go public. We created all the optionality we have out there. We have amazing distribution, the best customers in the world. Name a customer that comes to mind that you love a product. Like you were talking about Pop-Tart and Oreos. Those are customers of ours. Whatever shoes you have on your feet, with phones in your pocket, whatever car you drive or tires are on your car, these are all our customers. Or whatever life sciences product you use. I heard you mention that too. These are all our customers. And we just want to continue to deliver amazing outcomes for these customers and help them transform their supply chains.
All right, Jett. Well, thank you so much. We'll be watching and cheering you on. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Race car drivers like NASCAR champion Jesse Love are a lot like commercial drivers, pros. But even the best in the world still watch the tape to see what they missed and get better next time. So we created the Samsara driving coach.
Great race, Jesse, but you were following too closely and you were speeding.
Okay, you got me on that one.
Samsara uses insights from millions of professional drivers to coach drivers in real time.
Because even champions need a coach.
Give me the keys.
The map is changing. As global uncertainties rise, the future of the supply chain is moving closer to home. Welcome to the new Coast to Coast North American network. Driven by massive reshoring trends and next-gen industrial innovation, optimized by AI workflows that build unshakable operational resilience, and locked down by proactive security against evolving freight fraud. Are you ready to navigate the shift? Join the industry's top minds to build the future. The FreightWaves Domestic Supply Chain Summit, streaming live June 17th. Register for free at live.freightwaves.com.
Harris is joining me for a brief moment for us to chat about the first half of the show and what's coming up in the second half.
Yeah.
I'm jazzed about the second half of the show. Our guests in the beginning were amazing, so I don't want to downplay that by any means. I always love talking to Jett, and hearing about returns and overstock was like incredibly informative for me, something I hadn't thought about that much, but that now I want to dig into more.
Most definitely.
Got an energy update coming up.
Yes, we do.
And then we get to talk about the logistics of the World Cup with Dan Rosenthal and the CEO of Rocket Companies and all the things that they are doing to make these events happen and get all of the things where they need to be in the right places. So I'm super jazzed about that.
I cannot wait. Hour one has been just jam-packed with a lot of things that I like. First of all, the World Cup had here in Chattanooga the open practice at Baylor. That was fantastic.
I know, tell us. So Malcolm was able to attend the open practice.
Yes, I was.
I did not get tickets in the lottery, although my children were dying for it. So tell us a little bit about it. You got to see Spain practice.
Yeah, I got to see Spain practice. I mean, the facility was absolutely outstanding. It made me feel like I wasn't even in Chattanooga. It felt like Los Angeles, and they're in for a great time here at Baylor and here in Chattanooga too. So
yeah, it's a great facility, great location. Lots of excitement here in Chattanooga to have Spain's national men's team staying and practicing here.
Definitely.
Certainly lots of excitement about the World Cup as a whole. I did take my kids to one of the friendly games earlier this year when the U.S. men's team played Belgium, and I knew it would be cool, and I knew that they would love it. It was even cooler than I thought it was going to be, and just super fun. So it'll be really interesting to talk through that story. And hear how they make all of that happen. I can't imagine. I'm overwhelmed at the idea of it.
It was crazy. We talked about this on What the Truck a little bit, just like the overall density of the traffic in the different areas, like Toronto, as well as Boston, Atlanta. It is surreal just to see how this impacts supply chain. I'm excited for the conversation. It's definitely going to pick up on a good first hour here.
Another story I wanted to chat a little bit that Craig and I didn't get much time to get into earlier today was the theft and fraud story that we touched on earlier in the highway segment. So $4.49 million in goods stolen.
Yes.
It was cheese, lamb, frozen beef, cigarettes, and copper.
And copper. Look at you. High five.
And then it was sold across the Northeast, right? They were indicted in New York.
Yes.
This is insane. I think what's insane about it is that it's multifaceted. That they used hackers to get into the load boards to get the rates to be able to create like true documentation when they're picking it up at the right rates. Spoofed the DOT numbers. So it was like true theft. They were like walking out with it, and cybersecurity theft. It's insane. And this is why you certainly need partners like Highway to help prevent these sorts of things. But it blows my mind how much more sophisticated this is getting regularly. I know that you've talked more about it too and have thoughts.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this is being extremely just, I guess, reserved about it. But like, guys, these are incidents that are happening. And we talked about it this morning on What the Truck. I mean, you have a multi-million-dollar heist happening when it comes to cigarettes on our roads. Like, that's crazy. 2.2, I want to say, alone was within cigarettes in terms of a theft. So this is nuts to talk about.
It really is.
And beef and lamb. I mean, what a combination to bring to the picnic with some cheese as well.
I don't want. I don't know.
It's not good for my GOP diet as well. I heard hour one we were talking about Kanye West and GOP. It's like, this is a Malcolm Harris show. Let's go.
Yes. All right. With that, we are going to briefly hear from our sponsor, Pallet, and then come back with an energy interview.
Order and status update is a chance to win or lose a customer, but that will still, again, run on manual disconnected systems. Pallet is the leading enterprise AI built for the supply chain, automating costly operations from code to cash across brokerages, carriers, forwarders, shippers, and warehouses. Mallory Alexander serves 3 times more customers per operator, deliver an exceptional customer experience at scale. Visit them right now at pallet.com.
All right, welcome back. Craig's back with me, and we are joined by Joe Ezzo, the energy product manager from Trimble, to talk a little bit about what's happening there.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Energy is obviously a major topic for everyone today. Joe, tell us what your customers are really concerned about right now as it relates to energy.
Our customers are really focused on squeezing every dime they can out of a dollar, making the smart decisions. And that's where Trimble comes in. Our connected supply chain and everything that we have, that we offer, especially in our fuel market. We've brought in optimization. We have some connected workflows to the loading racks. So the things that we're missing over the few years with all TMSs really, we're able to bring that data in. You can make decisions, in seconds versus minutes. And the optimization piece is really nice because it's using an AI background, learning. It's continuously learning. So like as you dispatch through your day and you make changes, it's going to keep those changes in mind and say, well, last time you put this order on this driver, and why did you do that? So it does a lot of. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it just it takes a lot of the decision time of trying to build a schedule load by load for dispatchers. So it does a lot of predictive analysis. It looks at traffic patterns in the history. It looks at current traffic, weather, things like that, and then puts the orders to be delivered in the best time, best availability. The one cool thing about it is if the window's big enough, it starts looking at what is the best time. If you've ever used like Waze to take a trip and you want to say, what time should I leave? Well, you want to avoid traffic somewhere. So it takes that into consideration as well. So you spend less time sitting in traffic or at a red light or, wherever it gets you there quicker. So you can deliver more with less.
And this is it predominantly for fleets that are doing fuel optimization, or is this for the tanker trucks that are actually doing the fuel deliveries when you think of your scope?
Well, at Trimble, we have both. We have fleet utilization. So if you're looking to where's the best place to buy your fuel, that's our operations because that's more over the road. Our fuel dispatch is actually delivering from the terminal to the station. So those drivers are pretty busy during the day. They could have anywhere from 3 to 6 loads depending on how short the trips are. So it's a very volatile market. So if the pricing spikes, and everything gets busy, well, if everybody's busy, you're busy because everybody's prices just dropped. So they're trying to avoid runouts, and that's where we come into play. We have our forecaster. We're able to receive inventory data from the stations that customers are working on, and we have a forecaster that actually looks at your throughput, does the math, and puts the window also with the gallons or liters that you have, the volume for the order to fit what you have been selling. So it kind of delivers in proportionality.
Joe, my understanding of that business is a lot of it is contracted freight versus spot. We think of over-the-road trucking, there's a lot of spot market, but in the tanker business, my understanding is that most of it is contracted.
Yes and no. We have a lot of customers that they own the rack, they own the fuel, they own the station. So for them, it's what supply point are we going to pull from to cents per gallon is kind of like their metric or their KPI. So, how many gallons can you pull to make sure that station's full? So with our inventory services, that does a really good job of saying, hey, this morning, this load wasn't going to fit, and they've gotten busy. So since we got that new reading in, it's going to reforecast that order and put more gallons on the order to whatever the truck can haul, because we do place the order for the truck that it's being delivered on. So if there's any restrictions or anything, we take that into consideration. But the connected supply chain If you own the whole thing, then it's real simple. I mean, but if it's contracted, you have rack pricing comes into play. You have allocation, and that's the hard game, because if you can't keep track of your allocation and where you're pulling it from and prices, it makes everything a lot harder. And now you're sending a driver clear across town because you think the price is good. You find out that when he gets there that there's no product available. Well, that's where our tandem solution comes into play. So you're able to get that information way before the driver ever heads to the rack. So when the driver's on his way there, you can reroute that driver to another terminal to where you have product. That way you didn't waste a couple hours of the driver's time, and now that order that you had to deliver at a certain time is going to be late, or the station's out of product because of that.
Joe, I know that transportation is a big component in the cost-plus arrangements that over-the-road trucking fleets have. If it's an internal transaction, an internal network, how are you guys calculating or helping your customers calculate the transportation cost that goes into that fuel bill?
So both of our products, you can enter costs to help calculate. Our operations product, which is our over-the-road product, is a lot more robust in that. There's a piece that we're working on currently with DTN, which is one of the largest providers with allocation and pricing. So we want to bring that in so that way the dispatcher can make the determination, where should I be pulling product from? Because basically a penny makes a huge difference in the fuel world. So if you're pulling product and it's cheaper and you can get that product at a terminal, you got to weigh out, is it worth the drive? I may have to drive an extra half hour, 45 minutes to get to the terminal. But if I'm making enough on that spread, then it's totally worth it. I've seen customers before reroute their entire fleet because of a 30 cent difference on diesel, and just fill up all the diesel tanks, and you're making a ton of money. Plus you're also, replenishing everything that you have out in the field. So that's the benefit of knowing the price before you go get it and where to get it.
Yeah, DTN's an amazing company. We partner with them for our wholesale rack prices, which they provide that data that's in Sonar, so that you can see what the actual cost is in terms of wholesale. They have been certainly aggressive in rolling out new products. Are we going to get to the point where consumers can actually see, or consumers of diesel specifically, can actually see the total amount of gallons that are being pumped each day?
Do you mean at the station or
just overall in the market? I know they have the data. Are they thinking about rolling out that product?
I can't speak for that. I'm not privy to that information. I'm not sure about the consumer or anything, but if you have an allocation somewhere, yes, you would. We're doing a modernization across all of our products, and the one for fuel is to be able to have right on screen in front of you, showing how much throughput you have at what terminal and where you're pulling from. That way, while you're planning, you can see right there on the screen with you that I do have product to pull from there, or how much product can I pull to keep my allocation? Because there's a lot of times if you don't pull enough, then you may lose some allocation for the next month. So it's another predictive tool that we have going forward to be able to make dispatch a lot more efficient and to make sure that they're pulling at the right price, right costs.
So Joe, we've talked a lot about sort of this over-the-road fuel product you have. I think I read somewhere that you also have one now for ships. Can you speak a little bit about it?
No, I don't get into the intermodal stuff. That's a totally different than energy and our operations products. So we're a large company. I couldn't tell you the specifics on what they're doing with that.
All right, so getting back to this energy and this, do you have predictions on what's going to continue to happen with fuel prices throughout the remainder of the year?
After this weekend? No.
He's probably everything something else. If we can predict fuel, we'd all be.
I think we can talk about right? some of the inputs and things happening that will drive it.
Well, this weekend with everything that re-escalated, the way the market trends were looking, and crude was up 5% this morning of what it opened up with, and it's come down since. I'm watching on the computer over here. We're down to 91.16, but it's hard to tell until things are stable. You really can't make a judgment. I feel like once everything calms down and everything's stable across the pond, that we should be able to return back to normal fuel prices. And before the escalation, you were looking at like $4.76 on average for diesel. So if things quiet down, and I can see the market coming back to that, it may take a little while longer. Can't speak for certain, but you never know from week to week. I mean, we closed down on Friday, everything was good, and then over the weekend, everything went crazy. And then we come in this morning and look at the news headlines, and we're like, wow, what happened? Where'd this come from? You can't even predict it. That goes back to...
Are you surprised that we're only at $91 a barrel with the largest industry crunch in history, or recent history, I should say?
To be honest, yeah. Because if you look over like the past 5-year period, when COVID happened, there was a lot of refineries that shut down. A lot of companies closed refineries, and the bad part is that right before a supply chain crunch like that, we now have depleted our diesel products, our distillate products, really from what they were prior COVID. So if you don't have the refineries to be able to process the crude, and on top of that, our racks that are in the country are set for heavy crude. They're not really set up they're set up for sweet crude, not the heavy crude. And we have a ton of heavy crude in North America. So pulling that in to be able to refine it into products in a timely manner is extremely hard, because we're now having to, buy from the world market just like everybody else. But, I don't think anybody could have really predicted that with what's going on right now, but it's really, really hard to justify, when are you going to pick up your product, how much product you're going to get. So that's where, the TMS that we offer, it's kind of like a thermostat. And, I brought that up in my last conversation with Malcolm. So, a thermostat can't control the weather outside, it controls the weather inside. So if you're using the TMS with good data and you're thoughtfully planning for the future, then it kind of stabilizes what goes on in the real world. It kind of sets that buffer. So $90 opening one day to $97 the next day. It's hard to predict, but if you have the right tools in place, it's better to be proactive than reactive. So it can't control, the weather outside, but inside you can make sure that you're nice and warm and coastal.
Joe, one of the things that gets a lot of conversation, we see it in the data between the wholesale rack discount, the spread between retail and wholesale, is the fact when fuel prices go up, there's an immediate, feels like the truck stops immediately address the retail cost at the pump. But as prices go down, there's a very slow deflationary element in the data. Any perspectives on why that is? Why prices immediately react when prices go up versus when they come down? It feels like it's a very slow balloon.
Yeah, the markets. There's more than just the price of crude that has to be factored in, and everything fuel's bought on speculation. So depending on what's going on in the world or in the market, with everything that we've seen, it really wasn't market demand; it was policy. With everything from the Strait of Hormuz to the refinery capacity, tariff-driven crude, if there's any tariffs on it, there's a lot of things that weigh into that. They're easy to go up, but they usually come down slowly, along with any other commodity. It's the same, but everything's bought on speculation. So it's kind of hard to predict or say, well, if the cost of crude come down $10, I expect to see like a 50-cent drop or $1 drop in fuel. It's not going to happen. The other thing too is we always look at small snippets in time, but if you broaden that spectrum and you look and see what the price of crude was at a time in the past to what the price is on the street, they don't reflect what's current. And right now we're seeing, because of the volatility in the world, that the price is staying high, to where the price of crude, 5 years ago, we didn't have these prices. They're a little bit higher now. So there's a lot of factors that go into how the pricing can be set in the market.
What is really next for you at Trimble? What is the most exciting project that you're working on right now?
That's the modernization of all of our products. We are redoing all of our screens, our front end. We are focused on AI. We are cranking out work faster than ever with the help of AI. And AI is not here to replace people. It's here to make people's jobs more efficient and to be able to put out more content instead of, hand coding something. We can now throw it into an AI agent and work with that. And it's amazing how the focus of AI, not just in the fuel industry, but everywhere else. I mean, I use AI personally. It's just an amazing tool. It's not something to replace people, in my opinion on it. But I know there's others that say, well, if you're doing it more efficient, then you don't need as many people. Well, I always believe in repurposing people. Yeah. So even though you have AI, it's a great tool, but it's not. I mean, AI makes mistakes. I mean, it's I had it over the weekend. I'm like, well, you just told me this, but now it says this. So they're like, oh, good catch. So it's a great tool, but here at Trimble, that is across the board is the biggest thing that we're doing right now, and it is going spectacular.
You've got so much data. I mean, Trimble has this massive amounts of data across all these fleets, and it's ubiquitous. I think the number that I had heard offered by a Trimble executive once is that something like 65% of all over-the-road trucks have some Trimble product installed inside their fleet. Has that number grown since? Maybe my number's out of date.
No, you're pretty close. There's a couple of us majors out in the world, and then you have a lot of startups and a lot of smaller. As a matter of fact, I heard one today that there was a company that actually built their own TMS through AI, and it's totally possible. But is it industry standard? Probably not. Usually, when you find things that are built by a company, it's specific for them. But at Trimble, I mean, we have a large customer base, and we have a lot of really good users, and it's just amazing how. I mean, I've been in this industry for a long time, and where I worked before, it's a very close-knit group. The people that I worked with before, I'm working with now. I'm just on the other side of the fence. I'm on the software side and not on the, out in the field. But it's amazing how people group together. We still have each other's cell phones. We call back and forth. Hey, how's this going? Hey, I heard this. So there's a whole underground to the fuel world, but it's a really tight, close-knit group. And yeah, we're a major player in both the transportation field and energy, as well as over the road.
Yeah, I love the fuel business. I spent 10 years in the fuel card business, so I certainly have an affinity. In fact, my co-founder, Ben Murphy, was a part of IDSC, which sold its fuel business to now Trimble. It's part of your organization. Are you over that particular piece of the business, or is it the energy supply chain stuff that you oversee?
Yeah, the energy supply chain. I have, I don't know, 35 years of oil and gas, and I think I've done every job in the field as well as inside throughout the year. So it was probably the best training that I had coming here to Trimble to help these guys with their field product, because it's a very niche product. There's a lot of do's and don'ts. Plus, you got safety. You got to worry about, are you overloading a trailer, or are you underloading a trailer? That's even worse. So our compartment filling that we do, and customizing the load for the trailer that is being put on. Well, there's this industry 75% rule. If it's not 75% full, then you don't want to send that truck on the road, because there's a rollover risk. So there's a lot of safety that goes into it, especially with hazardous product. But you have to have industry knowledge, and just like Jett was talking about earlier in your show, when he was talking about market intimacy and knowing the product, and you have to have that for fuel. If you don't have that, then it's very iffy on how the software is built, how it works, because developers they know how to develop code. They may not know why they're doing it, but there's always a reason behind it. So if you have that market intimacy where you have somebody that can explain why are you doing this, then it's so much better. And we've always tried to bring our developers out in the field, let them work with people that actually use their software, which is another great tool. Let them see how it works in the real world. It makes a huge difference.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming in. Somebody who has diesel likely in his blood, it's still pumping, is Joe Ezzo, the head of energy for Trimble. Julie, I think he makes the interesting point. You got to love it. This is a tough business if you don't love it. We've heard that from all of our guests today. It's been sort of a theme.
I felt that, way when Jett said it earlier today, that you have to, I don't think I can say it, what I was going to say on live TV. You have to care. You have to be willing to, put the work in and care.
Well, speaking of loving it, I think the person who has the coolest job in logistics is our next guest. Daniel Rosenthal, the Rocket Company, is rocking the FIFA World Cup logistics right now. Daniel, welcome to FreightWaves Today. This is so many people on X have talked about how excited they are about this segment because you're right in the thick of the most exciting thing to happen in the United States in the country as it relates to sports.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for having me today. Except I don't even think this is the most exciting thing in the United States. This is the most exciting thing in the world over the next 6.5 weeks. This is more than 2 years of planning for the largest event in sporting history. And I think from a logistics perspective, I love the conversation that you just had. This is chaos time in many ways. And what we do is we come in and prepare and manage that across a whole important set of stakeholders and countries to support the largest World Cup in history. And we're tremendously excited about it. We are seeing more than 2 years of planning really pay off with the first match less than 72 hours away.
It's amazing. Daniel, is it just because of the scope, the fact that it's in 3 countries that makes it the largest? Is it attendance? Like what is really the metric that's driving this to be the largest World Cup in history?
It's a great question, and it's multiple metrics. This is the first time that FIFA has invited 48 teams. Previously, it was 32 teams. So you then have 104 matches that will get played. That's a 33% increase in the terms of the number of matches. And then you mentioned crossing borders. The World Cup will take place at 16 venues across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And so that adds to more complexity as teams have base camps in one country and play matches in another country and transport not just the players, of course, but all of the goods that go along with them to support their playing.
Well, it's funny you mentioned base camp because right here in Chattanooga, we are hosting the Spanish soccer team. There's been a lot of noise on X, people that have been sort of like, why Chattanooga of all places? Why do they pick it? We know why here in Chattanooga. A lot of the Chattanooga folks came to their defense. I don't know if you saw this, Julie, over the weekend. But it is an exciting time. I think the last World Cup we hosted was in the 90s. And I remember I played soccer, was really my sport. It was the only sport I actually had any skills about. Daniel, let's talk about how you guys at Rocket Cargo, I knew Rocket Cargo in the early 2000s when I was doing airport to airport logistics. You guys were sort of the concert people. You always had the cool stuff going on. How did you guys get in to be the World Cup logistics provider?
So you're right. By the way, if I can make a comment, I think Chattanooga and that area in Tennessee is one of the best parts of the United States. I've spent time down there, and I'm sure that the people there are being tremendous hosts to the Spanish national team, as you said, at the base camp with matches starting a week from today in Atlanta for Spain. Look, you're right. Our roots came from the music industry, and Rocket Cargo started in 1978. The first job was moving Led Zeppelin's drumsticks in a hand carry across London. And a gentleman named Chris Wright did that and realized there's a business to be made from this. And it's grown to support nearly 3/4 of music tours around the world in terms of the project management and logistics freight forwarding skills that we bring. But I think about Rocket, and we've now added dimensions around other live events, including obviously sporting events, and luxury goods, including fine art and luxury vehicles. Our slogan is, we move what moves you, because at the end of the day, what we do is drive that mission criticality around goods that people care the most about, again, whether they be in live events or in the luxury goods space. And when FIFA understood our venue expertise, our international cross-border expertise, really our familiarity and experience across the spaces with a host of sports leagues, and that music experience in similar venues, that really carried the day. And like I said, we've had more than 2 years of planning with them. We operate as one team alongside FIFA to support the operations across the World Cup. But we are also supporting more than 150 broadcasters, many of the 48 teams that are playing here, and 36 corporates that are activating experiences around the US, Canada, and Mexico for their clients. So there's a lot that goes into this, supporting throughout the footprint and making sure that we deliver. And again, more than 2 years of planning it's go time right now. And our team is tremendously focused and excited about it.
I imagine some of that planning has also been figuring out how this works across 3 countries. Obviously, the team's traveling from all over the world, but then having matches in the US, Canada, and Mexico, different cultural expectations, different regulations. How did you guys prepare for that?
You're right about that. In our experience, again, you think about Rocket, and we are more behind the scenes. We're the company, we don't talk a lot about our clients, and that's intentional. We're supporting a who's who of music, sports, and experiential for corporations and individuals in the fine art and cars, but we don't talk about it. We talk more generally. And so a lot of it went into leveraging the prior experience that we have. So we've supported every Formula One race in Mexico, as an example, and more recently with NASCAR. And so that gives us a lot of experience with that U.S.-Mexican border. We are the leader in producing carnets, which is the passport for goods, within the U.S. and within the U.K. And so a lot of experience that we brought to bear. We acquired a company several years ago called Del Will, which is clearly the leader in customs brokerage work for these special events. And so we've really assembled a group of people, about 1,100 worldwide, and this is what we do. We don't do pick and pack. We don't drive automation in terms of everything that we do. If you call us at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning because something's happening with a truck or
I think we lost Daniel.
There
he is back. Sorry, Daniel, you cut out for a bit.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm actually here at the Tournament Operations Center in Miami, so for FIFA. So that
that's cooler than
way cooler.
It must be a little overloaded, but sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
And I don't know where I lost. But I think in terms of the border crossing, our experience across sports, our experience across music, our experience in producing carnets, that passport for goods, we're the leader in that in the US and UK. We really brought all that to bear. So we know that challenges are going to occur. Things are going to come up every hour as we go forward between now and the end of the tournament and the dissolution of goods after that. We know that will happen. But it's the preparation that goes in. It's the control tower that we have set up. It's some of our master delivery schedule, proprietary technology. We're bringing all of that to bear with the experience of so many live events. And I think that is driving both better performance and service and also cost efficiency in terms of the overall delivery of services.
Now, how many folks do you have that you've ramped up to? I imagine you've got coordination on the ground, you've got coordination with your vendors and your partners and your transportation providers. How big is the scale that's going to take to pull this off? Because you can't be late. This is absolute on time, every time required. What does this take in terms of scale for you guys?
That's exactly right. And we have the benefit of an asset-light model, but with a lot of experience choosing the resources that we need in each market and for each delivery of service. And so we have roughly 1,500 shipments a day right now being processed and being transported, again, in that failure is not an option mentality that you referred to. So we're very excited about that. But we think that the reason we are successful in this is the control tower and the structure that we have set up to provide that service delivery level. You know, you mentioned at the top that you think this is the coolest company. And I agree with you. This was a dream job when I joined more than 3.5 years ago. And for me, it wasn't just that this was a logistics company. It's that we were a service company. And that's how I see us today. We are delivering service levels, leveraging the infrastructure, again, across air and ocean and truck, and whatever the mission demands, that's what we're bringing in. And that includes both our core team as well as hundreds of people that we are bringing in as the demand requires it.
I'd love to hear you quantify this. I went to a Taylor Swift concert and I took some, my wife somehow snuck us up on the front row, and I tweeted this because it's a way of showing photos without doing it, but I talked about the logistics. Went absolutely viral. I'd love for you to quantify the amount of just freight that's moving related to this huge event in terms of dollar amount or shipments. You talked about 1,500 shipments a day. How many truckloads is that? How many airplanes? We'd love our audience to hear just the sort of the quantum of what's actually taking place.
Well, and Craig, I'm happy to do it, but again, because I'm careful about talking about a specific customer, I'll do it more generally than talking about FIFA or Taylor Swift or what have you. I think the thing that blows people away with the size and scale of music tours is that some of the largest music tours in the world, stadium tours, are using 7, 8, 9, 10 747s to transport goods around the world. And again, it's a little bit different here with FIFA because there are so many venues and so many individual projects. But to give you an idea of the size and scale, we're deploying hundreds of trucks. We are supporting the teams in their bus transportation, their truck transportation of their goods. And again, that's happening in so many different areas like Chattanooga, as you mentioned. So some of it is centralized. The Tournament Operations Center for FIFA is in Miami. The International Broadcast Center is in Dallas. But the demands from a freight perspective, from a satellite warehouse perspective, are spread out around primarily the 16 cities where matches are taking place throughout the US, Canada, and Mexico.
It's amazing. The fact that I believe it's 453 of a FreightWaves can fit on a 747-400. I mean, you're talking about a massive amount of freight. Just do the math on that. I think Taylor Swift's tour, again, these are my numbers, not yours, something like 80 to 90 truckloads to go to that stage. I imagine for the World Cup, it's even more. I do have a question. So the Spanish team flew into Chattanooga's level field. They got off the plane. The plane was here. Are those aircraft fully dedicated to the World Cup over the next couple of weeks? Are they back in service doing other types of charter work? Or are they actually specifically focused on the World Cup and this is all that they're going to do over the next couple of weeks?
Depends, Craig, a little bit upon the team. So FIFA has a base level that they provide to each of what's called the FAs, the federations, the national teams. And then the teams can choose to handle things a bit differently. Again, we are more focused on the freight than on the passenger side of things. So others are best equipped to speak to that. But again, I think FIFA tries to have a level playing field for all the teams that's provided. And then some of the teams do put things on top. They want to transport, they have very bespoke needs. This is part of why a rocket is such a good partner to FIFA to support that. So they may want to bring in certain training equipment or certain food or certain other materials that have to get classified the right way. Again, we've supported international games for the major professional sports leagues for more than 3 decades. So we're really understanding in terms of how goods cross borders, how to track duties, how to track some of the consumption and otherwise. And that's where we support from the import of goods all the way through dissolution and manage all aspects of that process. I think that's what sets Rocket apart.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you guys provide the logistics of what the teams require, but you guys also do it for the broadcasting infrastructure. I imagine that is also quite the undertaking with 16 locations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It's an exciting one, Julie, because right now everything came into Dallas. That's the International Broadcast Center. But a lot of the individual broadcasters are then following the teams that are in the countries where they come from. And so the gear, everything to do with the production from a broadcasting perspective needs to be transported. And that's exciting through the group stage matches, but it gets even more exciting starting on the 29th of June around the knockout stages. And the way that works, for those not familiar with the World Cup, is after the group stage, the tournament will be reduced down from 48 teams to 32 teams. And they will play basically a one and done, kind of like March Madness in the NCAA tournament. They play until there is a winner, and then the winner moves on to the next round. And so those broadcasters don't necessarily know exactly where they're going to be until a couple of days in advance. Same thing with the teams. And so we are preparing, but then we're executing and reacting based upon the results to carry their equipment to the next location. At the end of the day, if you take the stadiums, the 16 venues, and all of the fan activation areas around them, and you turned everything upside down and dumped it out, everything that falls out, we have partnered with FIFA and our other clients to get there. Obviously, the seats are installed, everything else, but everything that would fall out if you turned them upside down, we are delivering. And that's why it's so hard to quantify the amount of freight as well as the number of trucks, because it's so disparate. It is spread out across the footprint. That's very daunting. But for us, that's a challenge that we are built for. Our team's built for, our control tower is built for, and our master delivery system technology is built for. And that's what we're seeing play out right now.
What is the most unusual thing that you've had to coordinate or kind of unexpected that you're like, this is something that was unique that you haven't dealt with before?
Well, Craig, it's funny. It's a great question, but it's Monday at a little before 2 p.m. And the answer to that is changing by the hour right now. Every hour is bringing something new. I think the thing that makes the World Cup so exciting, and I'm someone who loves the sport of soccer or football, as most of the world calls it. My kids all played. I lived in London for 5 years. I've lived in Spain and Argentina. I have a tremendous appreciation for the passion around the game. I think what's amazing about the World Cup is how it brings so many different cultures together. So a lot of this is whether you're in the US, Canada, or Mexico with the teams that we bring together, is just having respect for those different cultures, how they want to operate, what goods they want to import to help support their players and their teams, and how they want to go about that, how they want to protect those goods, how they plan for the training. So you can have an expectation that the training is going to start at 11 a.m. and the infrastructure is set up to support an 11 a.m. training. And then the coach decides to change it to 9 a.m. or 2 p.m. and the infrastructure needs to adapt. That is happening on the fly. That is happening literally every hour. And that's what we're set up for. So I'm never overconfident. I don't approach these things that way. We are going to get thrown a lot of curveballs working with FIFA and the other partners, but we're prepared. And we've experienced a lot of this through the music, sports, and luxury goods space. And we're bringing all of that experience and those relationships to bear to help execute on a successful World Cup. I think this is, at the end of the day, the most complex event in sporting history. For all the reasons that we talked about, the number of matches, the number of venues. So we're excited about being here to support FIFA and our other partners going forward.
It's fun watching these, speaking of media, watching these journalists from Germany and Croatia and Spain react to American culture, because there's, this may have been the first trip. And with X now having real-time translation, just seeing the way they talk about American culture, American food. Chattanooga, you have Spanish reporters talking about the quirky things that we don't think about. The best tweets I've seen is about American food. Just how shocked they are at the way we serve up stuff. And I'm sure every city is pouring in their own unique experience. We know we're doing it in Chattanooga. Portofino's in Chicago. There was a great tweet about a milkshake that had a cupcake in there. Americans love or gluttons for gluttony. So it's been fun. Daniel, I got to ask, outside the World Cup, of all the things when you go out to cocktail receptions and you're talking about what you do, what is the thing that you're telling people that you think is the coolest, sort of unexpected thing that you guys have been involved in?
It's a hard one, Craig, because ultimately when you're involved with the World Cup and 3/4 of music tours around the world, you're helping enable these experiences that move people. But then at the same time, we're moving one-of-a-kind priceless luxury vehicles, $450 million paintings. So it's really hard to choose one thing or another. I can tell you at the cocktail party, the fun thing about our company and my job is the diversity of what we do. Projects in more than 150 countries across about 2/3 of our revenue in live events, the balance in luxury goods, but really nicely diversified across those. It's really the impact that is always exciting to see and talk about. And you mentioned it earlier, Craig. I was a kid in 1994 when the World Cup was last in the United States, had a huge impact on me as a teenager to be able to be a part of that. So what I think we're all excited about right now is enabling the teams to have a successful competition and enabling the fans, not just in the US, Canada, and Mexico, but those who come from around the world, to have a tremendous first-class experience. And that's what gives us pride. And ultimately, the way we operate, I care more about that than having the joke or the story for the cocktail party. But that part is fun too. What we do is tremendously cool. And I'm really excited to be part of it.
My wife sort of cautions me pre-COVID to not talk about logistics and supply chain. I'm sure, Julie, you and your husband, since you're both in the industry, can do it.
We don't want to talk about it after we get home, after with our house, with some we already have some.
But now everybody wants to talk about it. Daniel has the coolest job here. He gets to be on the front lines of stuff. But I imagine, Daniel, you don't get to enjoy it as much as you thought you would because you're actually doing all the work to make sure this stuff doesn't. And the pressure has got to be intense because the show must go on. You literally must make sure that everything gets there on time.
Well, the kits, the corner flags, all of the equipment has to get there. But I don't know if I have the coolest job in the world. I would say our team has the coolest jobs in the world, and I really have the pleasure to be a part of it. One of the things I did when I first got here was roll up my sleeves and learn the business on a 747 music tour, going from Liège in Belgium to Hamilton, Ontario. And I do those things periodically to learn more about the business. We have a tremendous, extremely passionate team. This is a people business. Yes, we leverage AI. Yes, we leverage technology. I'm sure that increasingly will be the case, and it helps drive efficiency. But at our core, what makes Rocket different is our people, and I'm privileged to be a part of it.
What a cool niche you guys have, and what a cool organization.
It seems big.
Well, I mean, it's a niche in the market, but like that you've carved out your own space in the market that you do really well that no one else does.
By the way, our production team missed an opportunity, the Jackson Browne Loadout, because this was your theme song. By the way, a great song. Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Best of luck. You have important things to do. The show must go on, and go America.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch over the next few weeks for sure. We'll be cheering you on that everything goes smoothly as well.
Appreciate you coming on. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Daniel. What a fun conversation. I'd love to do maybe next World Cup or at least next major. Seems that they have sporting events going on all the time. Just do a live to sort of show what that looks like, because it just seems like a fascinating opportunity.
I think even the idea of the amount of warehouse space needed is daunting to me.
Crazy.
So can you imagine all of the different moving parts that they're dealing with?
Having to get the airplanes, and you got security issues you've got to deal with to get the aircraft, the materials onto the airplane. You got to secure it, make sure that stuff's safe. Just absolutely insane. We could do a whole show on entertainment logistics and event logistics, which is fun.
We can do a ride along.
We're going to definitely do that.
Back in a ride along.
We're gonna tease that maybe. College football. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, or pro football.
We can do the NFL. Maybe the NFL will do a live broadcast from. We won't go into the stadium to broadcast. We'll broadcast from the
whatever the logistics station is.
I love that idea. Yeah. So Daniel will hopefully have us back. We're going to do a live. Daniel, that's a tease to you. Have us back to where we can do a live and just show how cool all this stuff is. Sounds like a really awesome job. Well, that is the show for today. We're really excited that you're here for week 2 of FreightWaves Today. We have an amazing show coming up, as we do every single day. Tomorrow, we have the president and general motors of Felix Connect. General manager of Felix Connect. We have the CEO and co-founder of Loop, Matt McKinney, is talking about payments and freight. We have RXO is bringing in their vice president of pricing and procurement strategy. Exciting to hear about this.
Yes, me too.
RXO, all about now and getting your freight moved when it's that 911 operator that you need. Absolutely important.
Plus, I'm always excited to talk about pricing. That'll be great.
That's your background. I love when it involves data. And then we're going to talk intermodal with the head of intermodal for Echo. So that's tomorrow. Tune in, FreightWaves Today at noon. If you miss it, you can find us on SiriusXM at 5 p.m. on Road Dog. And then we stream the broadcast every morning at 6 a.m. and 8 a.m.